Guys, can we have a round of applause for our first guest speaker, Trinh of Life Ready. Thank you, Ben. Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne. Thank you very much, guys. It's such a privilege to be here tonight. I'm so grateful that for all of you guys coming out to hear our story. I think, I want to say thanks to Kim. I want to say thanks to We Teach Me, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to share our story. My goal tonight is for me to be as authentic as possible. So in the Q&A, no holds barred, fire any question you like at me. And the way I've kind of structured today is really just to share all the pain points, the good and the bad of our story so far. And also at the same time, with the power of hindsight, look back and see, what kind of worked and what sort of didn't work as you kind of explore your own entrepreneurial journeys. Just a quick show of hands, how many of you guys have started your own business or are thinking about starting your own business? Just so I can get a feel for the room. Oh, great, a lot of you guys. And how many of you guys are employees and looking and currently working at a company that you love? Yeah, great. Cool, there's a lot of you. I love the energy in the room. And just to get you into the headspace of what we're trying to get out of tonight, I thought of a little bit of an example as preparing for this talk. And it happened to me the other night. I was walking in the middle of the night, 4 a.m. I don't know if it's age or stress, but I desperately needed to go to the bathroom. I don't know if anyone's had that 4 a.m. wake up, you go, I'm 30 years old, I'm not feeling old yet, but it's 4 a.m., what's going on? I wake up and it's pitch black in the middle of the night. My dog sleeps in our room and I fumble around looking for my phone. I grab it, but I can't work out the new iOS update with the torch in a different spot, and I'm fumbling, I need to go too bad. I walk to my room, walk in, bang my foot on the door, and I turn the torch on. Just as I do, I drop the phone into the toilet. And this desperate urge inside me in that moment, it reminded me a little bit of what we're going to be talking about today. The problem that we solve, all of our businesses, they all tell a story. But our problem sometimes is like a deep inner urge to go to the bathroom, and we're desperate for it. And unless we take a moment and take pause in our busy, busy lives to just define it and get our hypothetical torch lit up, it can become very difficult to make our way to our destination. And so tonight, hoping that you can learn from the moments where I turned my hypothetical torch on too late, and you can reflect and take away some moments where you can clarify that deep passion inside you, that problem in the world that you feel like only you see, and that sometimes you're alone and you think about it, you daydream about it, and you think maybe I could go out there and start a business out of this thing. And maybe you can learn from the moments where I fumbled my way through without a torch and stumped my foot and dropped my phone in the toilet. This phone's okay, I'll put it in rice after. That's a little bit of a trick for everyone. So I'll start with just our story. It's always hard when people ask what exactly Life Ready and Physio and Pilates does. It's actually Life Ready Health Group. I'll get to my... That's way too small, sorry. But our company, where is it? Who are we? We are nearly 300 staff. We do over 300,000 consults a year. We're in 3 states. And what we actually do is we actually bolt on to Physio and Pilates businesses and provide a corporate structure for them to scale, pursue their dream, and focus on what they love doing. We rebrand them under us, and we do everything. So everything that is not Physio and Pilates, everything from coding, graphic design, M&A, legal, bookkeeping, cash flow management, HR, recruitment, anything that you can think of under the sun that isn't what they're actually passionate about. And our leaders have 2 jobs on the ground: take care of their patients and take care of their team. That's effectively their only job. And I've found that when you provide people the tools to remove barriers to succeed, they're actually really good at doing what they actually love doing, taking care of people and taking care of their team. The kind of inception of this story was effectively in 2011 when I graduated. I remember kind of graduating uni, feeling a bit disillusioned. And I woke up one day, on our last day, we went to the university and there was a talk much like this. And the CEO of the then largest physio company stood on this platform and said, look, these are the rules of our industry. Number 1, you can't open a practice when you're a new grad. You don't know anything, that's a silly thing to do. Number 2, you need 5 years experience, you need X, Y, Z, you need to work for basically pitching his company. You're going to come work here at our company, we provide this grad program. And I left afterwards feeling a bit disillusioned. And a month later I started work. I started work a day after my exams and I worked 3 jobs. I worked at a medical centre, which was your typical kind of physio practice at the time. and I worked at a typical private practice, a Pilates kind of for the state ballet, and then I also worked for a sporting club for kind of the state soccer. And the idea was I really wanted a snapshot of what our industry was like, and I couldn't help shake this kind of deep, is this what I studied 4 years for? You know, 4 or 5 years for? There's something not quite right. And I remember one night working late, as a lot of physios do. It was about 8 p.m. and it was dark, and I walk out of my room and I see my boss in the next room, tears, streaming down his face. And I walk over to him and I said to him, what's going on? Are you all right? It was just two of us. Admin had gone home. He looked up at me and he just said, Ben, admin are fighting again, staff were leaving, bookkeeping stuff, whatever it was, BAS or whatever stress it was. His IT was crashing, the phone system wasn't working, and his wife just told him that she had cancer that same night, like an hour before. And he's just gone, and I've had a full day of patients. Can you just take care of that stuff in sort of a desperate plea so I can get home to be with my family? And I just remember going, yeah, of course. You get out of here, I'll lock up, I'll take care of that. I knew a bit about IT, and I just took care of that stuff. And as I stayed back late doing this stuff, something just occurred to me that this guy is sort of the snapshot of the problem that I've been sensing with our industry. Sort of the story that was being told in our industry was that, the physios that graduated had to do it all, had to be it all. And I realized no one person can actually do all those functions well. He was treating patients all day, expected to give time and attention to his staff to manage the culture, and expected to be an accountant and a bookkeeper and a marketing manager and an IT person, whatever, all at the same time, and he was overwhelmed. And our industry, I realized the overarching story of the physio profession back then was a bunch of fragmented businesses with people that had great intentions, but were incapable of actually running their businesses in alignment with their intentions. There was a misalignment between impact and their intentions. And the only solution at the time was maybe a franchise, but that wasn't quite right for a lot of people. It was too systematic, and that works for some people, too like checklists. What about that entrepreneur type who just wants support, who just wants that help? And so that basically was the moment we came up with this idea. What if someone actually just came alongside these guys, 50-50, no funny business, and actually just took care of that stuff so they could focus on what they do best. Rewind the clock, 2011, sort of the idea began. Boy meets problem. I'm inspired by the problem. I'm captured by it. I can't stop thinking about it. I start thinking, what am I going to do? I'm a new grad. That's breaking kind of the rules of the industry. People said, you can't do this. You're a new grad. You can't start a business from scratch. That's a stupid thing to do. How will you learn? How will you? And when you challenge people's narratives, they're going to challenge you back with questions. But questions are just opportunities and problems to be solved. So I went out, worked out a way to kick it off. We bought a business that was struggling at the time. I went in there. The person wanted 60 grand for it. My accountant said, just lay it on the table, offer 10. I was like, this is humiliating. I'm going to go in this meeting and offer this person $10,000. And I was a grad. I said to this experienced, much wiser physio, I said, look, I've got 10 grand. She's like, deal. Shook my hand on the spot. I walk out to my car. I go, there's just that moment where you're like, what the fuck did I just do? Like, I just bought a business. Like, what just happened? She's like, oh, I'll work out the legals for you. Thank God for her. Seriously, she did all the legals. I literally went in there expecting no answer. That she was not going to say yes. She accepted it, and overnight we had a business. Settlement was like a couple of months later. We worked it out. I called on my mates. Word got out that I was a grad starting a business, and I started hiring friends. My lecturers were supporting us. It really created a lot of momentum on the ground, and it was really exciting. And by the end of 2011, we had 5 practices. I have no idea how that happened. The first practice was profitable day one. People just heard. People were supporting us. I took a huge pay cut. Obviously, I earned nothing. So when I say profitable, I just mean not negative balance in the bank account, but I lived at home. I could afford to do that, which is part of the story. My closest friends joined, and over time, it started with eventually 5 of my closest mates at uni. They kind of said, look, we'll get behind you. Our third practice was when we really trialed this idea of actually me taking the back end, someone doing the front end, and it just started getting momentum from there. I kind of tried to break this up into a few sections. 2012 was a lot of growth, scale. We had no idea what was going on, and we really just sat down. We used to meet every week and said, we have to start defining this, whatever this is, because I have no idea what this is. Like, why is it working? What's working about this concept? And so they decided to give me Saturdays off. The commitment was I had to spend some time defining our values, our vision, defining our boundaries, defining what it is that made us is working, so that as we grow, we wouldn't lose this. And I spent every Saturday morning for a year, and then on Monday I'd present it to the team, get their feedback, and go back and forth for that time. We held at 5 clinics for that year. Then in 2013 to 15, we decided that we needed help. I formed a board of great people that I knew, and they bought in a small stake of our business, and we kind of started growing from there. They helped me build systems, they helped me learn not to be a physio and learn to kind of build a professional business that wasn't just friends doing anything that we wanted all day long, but actually stay true to who we are, and the company just got some traction. Then in 2016, I'm kind of highlighting key moments, we raised some money. You'll reach that point in your business where my rule of thumb used to be, if I can solve the problem by not getting paid, then it's a good enough risk. Because as long as my staff get paid, I'm happy. But it reaches a certain point of scale where that's probably not a good enough solution for the problems that you might face. So because of that, we decided we were going to raise some money. We decided to bring in some great advisors. We ran that process for a year. And since then, the company's continued to grow. I hate saying these kind of broad stories because there was tons of pain points inserted all the way in between there. But I tried to capture what one moment kind of to capture the story would be. I remember, well, there's two. I'll choose one that's hopefully not going to get me in trouble, but should be okay. I remember being on a plane coming back from Sydney, and I built in some routine around making sure that I could take some time off to pause, reflect, and stay true to that clarity. And on my way home, I was sitting with my wife, and she was just had our first son. He was only 2 or 3 months old. And I started just getting into spreadsheets. I felt like I needed to look at some spreadsheets and get to know the numbers in my business, because my solution early on in the business was just grow the revenue. If there's a problem, we'll solve it by growing more. If there's an operational problem, we'll solve it by growing more. And I just felt like this isn't working for me anymore. I have no visibility. I don't know anything about my business. And after about 2 or 3 days, it became sort of apparent to me that we were effectively insolvent, that we had grown too fast. And I remember just looking at my spreadsheet, just going, this is not right. There's no way. Nearly insolvent, like borderline insolvent, like this business could collapse, and if I didn't do anything about it. And there was this sinking gut feeling where I realized, hey, I just convinced my wife to leave her job, to have a baby. Well, I didn't convince, she wanted a baby, but she left her job, having a baby. We just bought a house, we were settled in. What the heck do I do? How do I go? What do I do in this moment? And what do I do with my staff? And I realized running the numbers, I probably had to fire 3 or 4 people in order to keep the company alive, or not pay myself anything for an indefinite period of time. And I just resolved in myself I couldn't fire anyone for my stuff up, and so I went home this one evening. I remember it so vividly. Linda was just holding our baby, and I just had to get it off my chest. And I just said to her, look, babe, I've stuffed up. We're basically either going to not pay ourselves or not pay or get rid of some employees, and I'm not going to do that. So we're not going to have any income for a sort of indefinite period of time until I can save the business. And I just remember her leaving the room, coming back about 5 minutes later, looking me in the eyes and just saying, I forgive you. Go get on with it. If you lose everything, you'll always have me, and we'll always have each other. Go on and save the business. And I remember that season, that was 6 months. It took 6 months to the dot. We had $300 left in our bank when the accountant was like, hey, we can pay you again. I'm like, yes, it's just how it is. And 2 things. That's the journey. There'll be moments where you question, why did I do this? And no one knows those moments. Only my wife, thank God for her, she's far too good for me. There's my wife there by my side. She had every right to walk out and say that I'd totally stuffed her, but she didn't. She showed me grace and showed me love. And in that moment, she gave me the strength to keep going on. And there's so many lessons out of that, but I wanted to share that because I didn't want it to just be, oh, here's this guy, had an idea, found a problem. But no, the problem, and the company's massive, that's not the story. The story is, this is a problem that's captured my very soul. I'm passionate about it, I believe in it. I'll suffer for it, even if I'm alone. I'll be resilient, I'll push through the pain, I'll push through that stuff. And so tonight, I'd really encourage you, find that story. And I'm going to hopefully, with hindsight, give you some tools that will help you get some clarity around some things that are worth fighting for in your life. Because society is just a collection of humans. Economics is the study of household management, which is effectively the organizing of people into their various functions that best serve society. Everyone's function is a story. What are the stories that society is telling us? And what are the stories you believe about yourself in that place in our society? And hopefully tonight we can leave with some gems around how to give you some clarity in that. So who we are, this is those Saturday reflections. Our why is to move people to their best quality of life. Our why is what gets us out of bed. It's what our business will always do. It's about people. It's about quality of life. It's about progressing people to their best quality of life. Everything from my job to our physios to our receptionists, it's about progressing people. Our mission is to raise the bar of the profession. Our mission is our strategy. It's the assumption that we'll believe about the story. We believe that if we raise the bar of the profession, it'll enable us to move people to their best quality of life. The problem we're solving is effectively physios in small businesses stuck, unable to exit themselves and focus on what they love, and unable to do what they actually want to do, which is run a great practice. And our solution is to provide that back end, to be a partner for them, and to enable them to actually focus on what they love doing. So let's be direct. Businesses tell stories at the end of the day. And really, marketing is just, who are the people, what are the stories you're telling? And getting that message out to the people that might pay for that product to solve a problem in their life. So really, when we think of what a problem is, let's not overthink it. The question is, what are the stories that are being told around you in your world? And my hope today is that you can find some stories to let you place yourself in. And I'm going to leave you more with questions than with answers. And these questions are more what I've looked back and kind of the power of hindsight looking back at my own story. Let's make sure I'm not... So find personal clarity, your personal story. Who am I in the story first? So I looked back a little bit at the time and I realized actually because I was the CEO, a mentor once said to me in that period of time when we were writing our story, he said, the business is just going to be an outworking of you. And I read this Harvard Business Review article at the time that said it was like best personality type or skill set for CEO. And at the time you're like, yes, I'll just work toward that. Open this article and the answer is there is no correct personality type for CEO. It was like a total clickbait. But actually what it said is CEOs have humility and high self-awareness, meaning they know exactly what they're not good at, so that they can put people around them who complement those skills, and they have the humility to release them to do those jobs and plug those holes. And so it made me realize I actually need to know who I am. I need to create space in my life for self-actualization, to really reflect, to really define my core values, to really define the boundaries that I would play. And so I've written up there 3 circles that we use, that we teach our leaders at our company. Your values, is what you believe about the world. These are the boundaries, the ethical convictions that you hold about the world and your reality. They're not going to be true for everyone. And don't expect them to be. And they're not universally true. They're just true for you. These are the lines you won't cross, no matter how big your business gets. You see businesses crumble all the time because they cross these lines, and then the CEOs hate themselves. They regret it. This was so important when we were raising capital, because I could say to private equity, I could say to angel investors, these are the lines I'm not crossing, ever. Don't even try to negotiate that, and if you do, I'm walking out the door. You have to take the time to define these, and it's our company's values are just my values actually at the beginning. But I happen to be lucky enough to find friends who align with those values, because ironically, people are drawn to you if they share your values. Where that overlaps, you've also got your passion. So that is, you might have great values, but your passion is that problem, that thing that captures you. What do you actually enjoy doing? And the third one is your strengths. So what are you actually good at? I might love spreadsheets, but if I'm not good at it, I shouldn't be CFO of our business. You know, you might love whatever you might love, but let's be blunt, if you're not good at it, you shouldn't be doing that in your business. And where those three overlap, your values, your passion, and your strengths, that'll give you your mission, your personal mission for yourself. And you make sure that the business that you're starting, the story that you're writing, does not conflict with the story that you are personally writing. So anytime, what I mean by that, to give an example, is when we went to raise capital and decided to scale our business, it was a junction. Me and my business partner had to sit down and say, what's the story of our lives right now? Do I want lifestyle right now? I've got 2 kids. You know, do I want to just be at home and spend more time with them? In which case, I just need a profitable, stable lifestyle business. Or am I trying to scale this thing and pursue our mission? In which case, I need to double down, work twice as hard, and still not take dividends from our business. And it's been 9 years and we still haven't taken a dividend out of our business. You know, because we're still pursuing something bigger than ourselves. But at that moment, if the story of the business misaligned with my personal story, then truly I had to handball the problem off to someone else and have the humility to do so. So I illustrate that point because it starts with you. People often spend so much time when they have a problem they want to solving the problem, but they don't actually spend the time getting self-actualization on who they are and how that problem and business fits into their life. Because if you're passionate about the problem but you're not willing to start the business, you shouldn't start one. Okay, you should start it with someone else who's going to drive it and you be part of it. Then find the community. So who are the characters in your story? Who are the people that when you say the problem, they're like, oh, I was thinking that. And I started finding that every time I talk to a physio, another physio. So our company has the highest staff retention in the industry. We also have a bench of about 50 to 70 physios wanting to work in our business, not because we're awesome, because actually it's not for everyone, but just because we found physios who resonate with our story, who believe what we believe about clinical practice and about patient care. We're not right. We've just defined what we believe. And the people who happen to resonate with that will come along and they'll stay because they're passionate about it as long as we're still writing that story. So find your community. And I truly believe, you know, in fate, in God, whatever, that who are the relationships immediately around you? Who do you bounce off and energize? Who do you vent this problem with and they resonate with that problem back to you? That's a good first employee. That's a good first 5 employees. You know, those are some good early adopters in your business. Our bookkeeper is a great example in our company. When she came in through our doors, she'd never been a bookkeeper. She'd been a restaurant manager. But she said to me, my dream was, values all this, our vision, and to be a bookkeeper for that organization. She was so clear on her vision. And I left going, I think we're going to hire that person. Because you can train competencies, but you can't change character, right? So, well, you can, it's just harder. So find the community around you because you can't do it alone. Solve the real problem. So what I mean by this is start writing the story, okay? So what are the narratives of those people? Make sure that you're actually aligning their personal narrative with your company's narrative and that it doesn't conflict with your narrative. And start writing it down, like literally. Writing down the journey toward your vision, writing down even just the next few months, that's enough. When we started, we didn't have a 20-year plan or a 10-year plan. We had a 3-month plan, a 6-month plan. But people could still plug into that story and see how it connected with their personal direction. Ooh. So, and then last 2 questions. What are the economics? How will you make money from this? If you're just catching up, solving a problem, you're just doing charity. How are you going to make a living out of that problem? And you may not, and I want to be clear on this, I'm very passionate about B Corp. One of our board members is one of the few B Corp ASX companies. And not every world problem is commodity. This is my views on economics, but not every problem you can make a commodity out of, okay? But that's all right. You know, you don't have to. Then how do you plug that? If you can, great. Then how do you plug in that social impact into the business? We have a social impact arm called Life Ready Open House, which is something deeply passionate to Jess and I, which is basically complimentary physio care for immigrants, for people who can't afford it. You know, how are you going to make money off that? You can't. You can't charge a poor person for something that they need. But what we can do is tap into the story that our physios tell about themselves. When we did this survey of who would volunteer, 84% of our staff said they would volunteer extra hours to help someone, which told me actually we need this in our story because it aligns with their personal direction. And that's a very exciting piece of the puzzle. But we use something called the Lean Canvas. I put it up there to work out how to actually monetize this and who to work with. It's from Eric Rice. You can just Google it online, but I can send it out if you shoot me an email. And how it all kind of fits together, at the end of the day, is hope. There's two personality types of entrepreneurs I've found. If you're a very bottom-up, details person, you're going to run a perfect business, but it'll be one business. So the way Jess and I, my business partner, say it is if she was on her own, she'd run one perfect physio clinic. Like, it would be perfect. If it was just me, I'd run 100 poorly run physio practices. Neither of them is what either of us want. But together, we can actually build something special. We'll have 50 clinics that are well run, in the middle. But you need that top line, which is the vision and the hope. So I call it hope, because every story has to have hope. Hope is what gives suffering meaning. One of my favorite books is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And he talks about surviving in the prison camps. And he says, at the end of the day, it was actually people whose stories were something that the prison camp couldn't take away from them. They had, for example, one of his friends he uses a story about a guy that believed the war was ending on a certain date. That date came and went, and he couldn't make it anymore. He couldn't keep going. But for Viktor Frankl, he has looked inwardly of himself, and he had this vision of one day him teaching about this experience in Auschwitz. And nothing they did to him there could take away. In fact, it actually contributed to that vision because it was more experiences for him to share. You will need this hope and this vision when you start pursuing your problem, because you'll need resilience. You'll need grit. It'll give meaning to those moments where you feel like giving up. And so I'd encourage you, how it pieces together is you've got your vision, your passion, your strengths. Your mission then comes out with your why, which is, you should watch Simon Sinek's Why if you haven't already on the TED. And how those all connect with society is the vision. It's a tangible, descriptive picture of what the world looks like when your problem is solved. And it should be measurable, it should be inspiring, and it should be something that gets you out of bed every day, that you can actually say, when someone says, what does the world look like when you've achieved your goal? What does success look like tangibly? And it doesn't have to be en masse. It can be XYZ person impacted, whatever it might be, but it has to be tangible and measurable. And this hope is what will get you through it all. So in summary, I just want to say, ask me any questions you want. I've tried my best to tell the full story, but it's very hard in such a short period of time. But speak to me after as well. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ben Trinh, Life Ready Physio. Thank you very much.